Welcome back. This is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560. The Answer. I am your host. I am attorney Stephen Leahy. And this is, again, the IRS Radio Hour. And this is my nephew. I didn't do a very good job at it.
You do a terrible job at it. Your mind is not here.
It's over there.
It's at Wrigley. It's at 1060 West Addison.
I'm going there tonight.
That's right. Well, we record Friday, show airs Sunday. So remember,
8 o'clock Friday night game. Never been at Wrigley on a Friday night. Mm-hmm. I think there was one time a night game at Wrigley. But I don't think I was there.
So remember, we record Friday and the show airs Sunday. So if you have any questions, make sure you call Opem Tax Resolution at 312-664-6649 or visit chicagotaxteam.com. And that's going to be your hub to help fight the IRS, because you're going to see a lot of clips from previous shows. You're going to see a lot of blog posts, which is the next segment we're doing right now. It's the blog segment. The blog. The blog.
I love that music.
I know you do. Let it just sink in.
You did a good job there, Jim.
Was that transition? Did you see that transition?
It was
flawless.
Unbelievable. You're a highly trained radio professional.
I've come a long way since. So remember, visit chicagotaxteam.com, because you'll see the first episode I was in. I was like, yes, that's nice.
Compare and contrast.
Okay. Wait, I don't know.
Today.
I started out at the high note. My first show I was great the first time. Now, talking about that.
No, yeah. Wait, here's him. Hello, everybody. Attorney Stephen Leahy here. Coming at you.
Okay, so anyway, I have a radio experience. I am going to be, now this is Sunday, so yesterday, on Saturday, I was on David Hochberg's show, Home Sweet Home Chicago.
He is everywhere.
He is everywhere. Anyway, I'm going to be on his show, and I am the IRS Answer Man on that, the Chicago Radio IRS Answer Man.
Wow, hey, that's nice.
That's my title.
Yeah,
I gave it to myself.
You know what my title is?
What's your title?
I don't have one.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
but let's talk about the blog.
Co-host, that's my title.
So I talk a lot about on the show that there's 6 things you can do if you owe the IRS money.
No, I never heard those.
Yeah. First thing you do is you pay them. One of the things, though, is 2 things. The 5th thing you can do, and I talk about, is file for protection under the bankruptcy laws. And that's why you have to be very careful when you go to a lot of these outfits that you hear on the radio, because they're not lawyers. Even some of these law outfits, they don't even offer bankruptcy. If I only have 6 things, and one of them is to do nothing, so that's not really an option. So
and
now
6 has never started a land war in Asia.
So 6 is do nothing. So there's really only 5. And the first one is pay them, and if you could pay them, then you wouldn't have a problem. So there's really only 4 things. So if one of the things is bankruptcy, that's 25% of your options. And if they don't even offer that, now you're really limited on what you can do. So bankruptcy sometimes is the best option. And sometimes many of my clients have what they call over the mean, so they make a pretty good income. And usually people who owe the IRS it because they have a business or they're 1099 employees and they're not paying their taxes out of their checks. So and they generally do pretty good. They're salespeople or they own their own business and they're making a fairly good living. And sometimes you'll hear that if you make too much, that you can't file for protection under Chapter 7 of the Bankruptcy Code. And Chapter 7 is when you can walk away from your debts, your IRS debts. And I always hear this. You mean you can file bankruptcy on taxes? I always heard you can't. Well, the answer is that bankruptcy and taxes and bankruptcy, very complicated area of the law. So you have to be very careful.
Sounds like it.
You have to be very careful about who you pick. So I had a client, and he came to me last year, and he had the IRS coming after him. So we filed some appeals and give him some time. He needed some time to get under.
Okay.
So he made more than the average person. So it looked like he couldn't file Chapter 7 bankruptcy. If you're over the mean, that means that your income is higher than the average family of your size. If you make more than that, then there's a presumption that Chapter 7 won't work for you, and they want you to file a Chapter 13. And it just, Chapter 13, and I don't want to be caught in the weeds, but Chapter 13 means you have to, and if I'm over the mean, I got to be in for 5 years and I got to make payments for 5 years. All my disposable income has to go to the IRS or my creditors for 5 years. So in this case, the guy, we were going to do a Chapter 13 for him, and his payment was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood between $500 and $750 a month. So $500 a month would have been something
That's a nice car payment.
$30,000. That would have cost them over 5 years. So as we're going through it, and when I'm reviewing everything, because before I file a bankruptcy case with people, I sit down with them and we review all of the documents. So many attorneys don't do this. They just fill out the paperwork and file it with the court. I don't do that. We sit down, we go through it. As we're going through it, my client says, "Man, it looked like a light just went off in your eyes," because it did. Because we're reviewing his documents, and it seemed he had about $85,000 in tax debt, and he only had like $20,000 or $25,000 in other debt because he doesn't own a home, didn't have a car payment, and the light went off in my eye. I'm like, wait a minute, there's an exception for this means test that says, so if you make more than the average person, you're supposed to go into Chapter 13. But the exception is if your debt is primarily non-consumer debt. So in our district, that means if more than half of my debt is something other than consumer debts, and consumer debts, I don't want to go into the court's definition of what that is, but suffice it to say, that's more like credit card debt and things I use for personal use. If the other half, if more than half is business debt or some other non-consumer debt, and here's the catch, other non-consumer debt, the court in our district has said taxes are non-consumer debt. So he had more than half of his debts were taxes. So that means we could avoid the means test. So how long have you been doing this? No. How long have you been doing this? What do you mean? Helping people with bankruptcy? Yes. 16 years. 16 years. That is a veteran move that just happened right there. But it's more than that, because I think most lawyers don't spend the time with it, even if they've been doing this for 20 years. I can't tell you how many lawyers that I know. And that's one of the things I do is I help people who otherwise attorneys tell them, "Oh, you can't file Chapter 7. There's some rule that if you make more than that, you can't file Chapter 7. That's not the rule. The rule is it's a presumption that you can't file it, but you can overcome that presumption, and there's ways to do that. And here's another way to do it, and this is what I did to another client of mine. If a lot of your debt, it wasn't primarily, so we couldn't avoid it because more than half of their debt was taxes. It was less than that, but it was priority debt for the IRS. Priority debt you can use to overcome the presumption. And this client, they earned more than $200,000 a year, and we filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and we discharged all their debt. Now, not their tax debt, because their tax debt was priority, but again, they still got out of a lot of their debt. And now we can work on their IRS debt. So it's amazing. There's these little nuances in the law that for taxes that a lot of other attorneys don't know because they don't use it. The only way you know these things is because you've come across it and you can use it to help your clients. Wow! So it's amazing. So again, if you have other debt, if you have a lot of tax debt and other debt, then maybe bankruptcy is the way you should go. And if you're thinking about bankruptcy, make sure, or even if you have tax debt and it's more than 3 years old, make sure you contact a lawyer who understands taxes and bankruptcy, not just bankruptcy or not just taxes. The key is what you just said is a lawyer who knows what he's doing. Well, no, he's not necessarily. Obviously, you're saying, give me a call, but you want what's best for. And if if you don't call me, call somebody. Make sure the guy you're talking to, because your friends are going to say, "I got this bankruptcy guy. He's the guy you should go to, and you should talk to him because your friends just told you to." But then you should make sure that he understands tax law, okay? Because if he doesn't, if you owe the IRS money and you're talking to a bankruptcy lawyer, make sure he understands how you can discharge your taxes in bankruptcy. Because so many people have come to me and it's been I hope all you folks out there have a pen and a piece of paper. If they would have just waited 10 more days, they would have been able to walk away from the debt. But because the lawyer didn't look, they didn't. So they didn't walk away from their debt. So this happens a lot. So anyway. That's my blog post. Well, ladies and gentlemen, remember, if you missed any of that, because I know I did, visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. That's where you're going to be able to read the blog posts. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're all over the place. So remember, ChicagoTaxTeam.com or call Opem Tax Resolutions at 312-664-6649. And he can't help you if you don't give him a call. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned, because after the commercial break, we're coming right back at you. So listen to our advertisers and then tune in to our next segment. So remember, stay on this station, AM 560. The Answer.